I'm going to drop a thank you so much for having me, Inbal. I'm so excited to be here and talking to your community. I think just with the name Like-Minded Collective, we all know we're in the right place. We're all like-minded, and I'm super excited to be here, a part of it. I'm going to drop a link in the chat that anyone that is in a place that wants to take notes in a Google document, you can make a copy of that and save it for yourself. It'll guide you through some of the things we're talking about today. And otherwise, we're going to jump right in. I love for this to be interactive. So at any point, feel free to raise your virtual hand, your physical hand, unmute, and be a part of everything. Would love for us to all be here to connect together. Let me share my screen here. All right. Everybody can see what we're talking about here? Perfect. And let's see. Okay. Multiple monitors. So setting your family and business up for success during the holidays, that's what we're going to be talking about today. And this is a guide to achieving success during that time, truly. And this looks different for everyone. And I do want to note this little book that you can see on the left-hand side here. For anyone with littles, this is a great book. It's called What Do You Celebrate? And it's a really great way to talk about all the different things that are celebrated during the holidays. And I know we have quite a few different holidays that are celebrated even on this call. So I love that, really showcasing that. But I want us to just take a moment, and if you're driving and you're not in a place to write, that's okay. If you are, we're going to take a couple minutes to just really just talk about what comes to mind for you when we talk about the holidays. And if you're using that Google Doc, you can journal within that. You can really just sit with yourself for a couple minutes, but we're just going to think about that for just a moment here. Can you hear the sound? Okay.
Yes.
As moms, we often come into these calls, and also as business owners, we have a lot of things on our mind. So before we even get into how to organize ourselves for the end of the year, maybe you're just still journaling on what else is on your mind today. Maybe you had a hectic morning. Maybe there was an emergency with work or your kids. You have other things sitting on your shoulders, and you need to allow yourself to just let go of all of that pressure.
Charisse is joining.
Sometimes before we even get into the holidays, we can catch ourselves selling ourselves short before we even get there. We can be thinking about all the things that are going to potentially go wrong before we even give ourselves a chance for it to go right. You can get caught up in the stress or the excitement ahead of time. And maybe you need to set some boundaries with your family, with yourself, with your kids. Do you have any guilt that you're holding on to around your wants or desires? Are you grieving or missing a loved one this year? As a mom and a business owner, it can be really hard to balance it all. So maybe you're struggling with understanding how you're going to even approach this season. Are you having financial concerns, how you're going to afford it all? You might be wishing like you could just wear one hat instead of it all being on your shoulders and your responsibility. The mental load is real. But what do you love about the holidays? What traditions? What are the ways that you like to cherish this time and you wish that others would be able to help meet you there? So you can definitely come back to this as well, but you really just want to think about what are the things that come to mind for you with the holidays. It's not always positive, and that's okay, but really allowing yourself to sit in that and get ahead of it before you have all of this weighing down on you, because you are a multifaceted woman. Whether you have littles in the home or not, you're balancing business, you're balancing friend demands, family demands, all of those things. So give yourself some time between now and I would say the next week when things really gear up for the holidays, and think about, okay, what does it mean to me and how can I get in front of a couple of these things? And does anyone have anything they want to share on that came up for them?
I'll share, Kelsey. So this year is so different for us because usually we go to, so I'm Jewish too, but my husband celebrates Christmas. And so it's been so easy. We just go to his family for Christmas and they're in New Jersey and everybody kind of meets there, or his grandma lives there. And this year he's actually going to be traveling for 6 weeks. He's going to be gone like right after Thanksgiving to like mid-January. So there's like so many feelings for me because for one, I have 2 little girls and I'm pregnant. So traveling to New Jersey with the time change and the Airbnb and all the family like is so exhausting. So I'm like, there's a sense of relief. But then on the other hand, my daughter is now old enough to kind of like talk about Christmas and Hanukkah and the holidays and like, sorry, I'm like also hormonal and emotional, but like not having dad there. Right. So it's like very much like positive and negative combined. So like not having the pressure of going to the East Coast, but also like I would do that to have him here. So just kind of like navigating how I'm going to go about doing that.
Yeah. I feel that.
Yeah. Tabitha.
Sorry, I'm gonna try not to cry, but I'm not doing a good job with it.
Crying's okay.
I know they feel for me, just as context, like I had 13 people pass away from my family in 3 years, and then my husband left, and then I got pregnant solo. So, and I co-parent with my son's dad. So this year is one of the years, especially particularly, that it's difficult in that. I don't have my son for Thanksgiving this year. We alternate every other year. And then I always share Christmas, and this year Hanukkah overlaps with Christmas. So even like a lot of the holiday stuff that we participate with our Jewish community is difficult to participate in because the way our parenting plan is set up is that he always gets Jacob for the 23rd through Christmas morning till 10. And so that overlaps with just a lot of Jewish activities, and that it's Friday night and Saturday. So, and also it always kind of is difficult because my son's going to be gone for 2 days, and it's difficult for my son to be gone and away for 2 days at a time. So it's just a little bit bittersweet. And I know for me, and I know like entrepreneurial poverty is like a real thing, but like it just is frustrating knowing financially where you wanted to be and goals wise, and just to not be there, and to know and to think like last year, like, oh, that buying that bicycle for him from Santa, like would have been like, oh, this is not going to be the same next year. And then to feel the pressure of it this year as an entrepreneur. So yeah, it's a little bit bittersweet for me, and that I love the holidays, but most of my family has passed away and gone. So we don't have family to celebrate it with. And the sort of navigating the things that we do have, I try and remain in gratitude and know that I have a great co-parenting relationship. But for me, it's just a lot of mixed feelings. So thanks for letting me share.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And I think what the common theme that many of us feel and that both of you are having is there is typically this bittersweet, right? There's the positives of the things that we're grateful for, whether it's in life, our business, the holidays, any of the things. It's even when we have like those little humans that need us and we are grateful for them, but we're ready to rip our hair out too. And the balance between all of that. And I think that the reason I wanted to start with this is because that's so important when you think about all the different things that you're going to step into over these next 2 months and how you define your success, because it's very easy to get caught up in, I thought I would be here, or I pictured our holidays being celebrated this way instead, or I wish I had more help or less help, or any of the things. So definitely continue to come back to that exercise and continue to write down how you're feeling. And as you navigate through different text messages you receive or Santa lists or demands, how are you feeling about it? And how can you come back to truly those feelings and knowing what they are? What we're going to step into now is really how we take all of those feelings and make sure that we succeed no matter what. And so I love this quote by me. It says, "She who succeeds defines her success, and she who defines her success succeeds." And really what I love about that is because you can't fail if you define your success. And if you define your success, you will always succeed, because you're able to really look through this lens of what success looks like and be really clear on that for yourself and for your family. So what we're going to step into today is really 3 different ways that I measure success through the holidays for business and family. And we're going to communicate our expectations and desires, measure success as a family, how we combine and compromise, how do we follow up, collect data, and prepare for next time, right? So before we dive into this and you're like, Kelsey, why should I let you make me cry on a Zoom call and then give me data and strategy? I want to give you a little bit about my background and who I am. So on this right-hand side here, you can read a long timeline about really my background. I was born and raised in California. I went to high school in Northern Virginia and Iowa. I danced competitively, but nothing like Dance Moms. And then I suffered depression and anxiety throughout high school, which actually resulted in me not even walking at my high school graduation because I couldn't get myself out of bed to get there. From 2011 to 2014, I worked 3 jobs to pay my way through college. In 2014, I started my first career job at $15 an hour, graduated with a business degree in marketing and management, then went 50-50 on a 30-acre vineyard property in Napa, married my college sweetheart, scaled my business throughout that time, and then became a mom in 2018, which went really well for me. Had a great first year till I found I had complications and had to have surgery a whole year later. Alongside of that, I was able to see on paper that I had created a 7-figure net worth by 28 and had this mindset shift that really didn't matter. I didn't have that money in the bank account. It was just a piece of paper. It was just a number. And so many other people were putting my worth in my career, my title of mom, and that success that I had created. But to me, they looked like a bunch of check boxes. So after I had surgery, I really shifted to what story do I want to leave behind? I spent 2020 really defining what that looked like for me. And then in 2021, I became a mom again and knew exactly what I wanted to do. In June of 2021, I started Mama Has Goals. And earlier this year, I was able to quit my full-time job, move into an Airbnb with my family. And today I launched the Mama Has Goals podcast. But while all of those things are super exciting, what I would love for you to actually know about me is that I love sushi and champagne and dance parties. I'm always game for a game night. And I love my little kiddos. My husband's absolutely amazing. And if you ever need a spreadsheet for anything, I'm probably your girl. But this is me. This is my family and my life. And I want to just give you that background as we jump into these different things today. Feel free to ask me any questions. I'm a total open book. So when we think about success and positivity, hoping for it does not equate to smiles and achievements, right? So we can wake up in the morning and we can be like, today is going to be a beautiful day. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for speaking things into existence, but we have to have a plan. It doesn't just equate to, especially our little humans, having smiles or the family dynamics in the holidays of full achievements. So we can see here kind of what a typical family holiday interaction often looks like. People aren't super stoked with what's going on and they're trying to navigate showing up for each other, but they're not really sure how that even feels for themselves. So I want you to think about what are your biggest hurdles and stressors in your business for the remainder of the year. And if anyone knows right off the bat, they're like, I am so stressed about this, I don't know how I'm going to overcome it. feel free to jump on in, and you can also use the Google Doc to write on this for a moment. And I'm just going to reshare that Google Doc because a couple people have joined since we started. And if you can't grab the chat, that is there for you.
So I'll go since nobody else is chiming in. I found out that I was like, we had a surprise pregnancy. And so things that I was planning to do in like first and second quarter of 23 had to be super expedited. So right now for the remaining of the year, I'm basically working on fundraising. And so that's basically what I've been navigating the last month and a half. And it's just consumed so much more of my business than I initially thought that it would. So that's my biggest hurdle and stressor at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, we're going to come back to this, but that's also like an expectation you're putting on yourself, right? Like you're defining what that success looks like. And that's like the common theme that we'll talk about today. But it's also totally fair to just have that want and desire. Like you're allowed to put that pressure of success on yourself. It doesn't make it a bad thing, but it's just acknowledging it and working through it. And so on that Google document, there's a column for personal and a column for business. So if you're not using that, I do recommend separating the two. Like, what are the hurdles that are going to come up? Some of the things we talked about earlier is navigating co-parenting, navigating being alone and not having the support that you need. Those are personal hurdles, right? Maybe it's other boundaries and things that you have to set. Maybe it's grief and understanding that that's a natural emotion and feeling that's going to come up, and that's a hurdle to navigate. For business, it's what are the successes and the goals that we wanted to hit. Maybe it's not having as much of your team present or even contractors or anyone else that helps you with your business because they're off celebrating the holidays and you don't have the support that you're going to need. Those are a lot of the hurdles that typically come out during this time frame. Tabitha, did you want to share anything?
Well, I think the last thing is like, I have a goal of losing 50 pounds by the end of March. And I'm in physical therapy for 2 different things right now, twice a week. So for me, I'm trying to sort of start to jumpstart myself as far as like the weight loss and like work towards weight loss and getting my body back, and just even if it's not weight, like just feeling better in my body. And all of the desserts like it's already started with Halloween and things like it feels, like the worst time to do it sometimes feels like doing it in the holiday season or trying to even maintain your health and weight. And with us, not having a lot of sugar and things like that, even just so we don't get sick or not as, in a place of getting us sick. So that feels like a little bit of a personal hurdle.
Yeah, but it's totally true, right? When you're around people that are celebrating a certain way, whether it's celebratory beverages that have higher, alcohol and or calories and sugar, or it's the fun meals or the things that you're doing, like it's a real hurdle. It's not, it's not something to not consider as you go through it. And same with like your energy for your business, like just I'm not a nutritionist, but scientifically, when you eat more things like that, you typically have a little bit lower energy, and that affects how you show up in your business, how you show up as a mom, all of those things. They're just real hurdles that you have to overcome. And it doesn't mean not to do it. Like I'm all for the good, cheesy casserole, but like to decide like if that's the choice that you're making, what that looks like. And I actually think that's a great transition into our next spot is knowing what you need. Like define and know what you need and how do you even consider success. So you have this big milestone that you want to hit in March, but I think the number I heard was 50, and it's not really about the number, but the point is like you don't just lose weight overnight, right? There's a process that has to hit that. Same with financial goals in our business or having success in our home, all of those things. We can't just like wake up and be like, I am good, like this little girl dancing in her Santa outfit, right? We have to build the foundation in the background to how do we get there. So right in that Google Doc, you can put, what are the things that you know that you need? How do you even consider success? Like when you think about all the things that we've talked about that are going to be hurdles, that are going to be the good and the bad when it comes to the holiday season for you personally and professionally, what are the things that could make you dance like this and be like, no, this was good, we had success? Because sometimes we have this idea in our mind, but we don't really flush it out to like no, success would mean that we would be able to FaceTime my husband for each activity that we're doing, even if he can't be with us. Or success means that when I do get my son back from the co-parent, I check this box and this box, because even though it's going to be a difficult transition, I know that this is what success looks like. And maybe I don't have the, calm financial stability that I was looking at when I was thinking about presents this year, but maybe that means that we make more of an experience out of it and we buy that gift a little bit down the road and we go celebrate where we ride the bike and all of those different things. How can you redefine what your success can look like within your parameters to make it feel really good for you? Because wanting things and having desires, we should have that, and you should feel unapologetic about what you want and what you're hoping to achieve. Don't tell yourself that you're not worth it or you didn't work hard enough this year and that's why you're in the situation you're in. No place for that here. But how do you take what you do want in this next 2 months and make sure that you have a plan for success around that? Because
I love
accomplishing,
all of that. I love all
yeah,
of that, by the way. Like this, because I do try and like, well, Jacob's gone for 2 days. I'm like, okay, great. What am I gonna have done? Like when he's gone for Thanksgiving, I'm like, okay, great. When he's gone, I'm gonna put up the tree because it's easy to do when he's gone. Or yeah. Or when he's gone, is that on Christmas? I always honestly put the tree down because we usually go to my mom. So it's like just yeah. So I love having that list and like and how you phrase it of just being like, oh, maybe I only eat like a couple, like 2 donuts, and it's only for Hanukkah at when we're at an actual community event or something. It's like just trying to frame what success looks like there. So I love that. Thank you.
yeah, definitely. And like, it could even be like, I'm not in the health space. It's one of my biggest things that I want to work on myself. So I'm just giving you context, but maybe it's not even limiting what you choose to enjoy, but it's saying like, hey, on Christmas morning, I'm going to make sure I go for a walk, or for every like time that I want to do these things. Like, again, just defining what that looks like for you, making sure you drink enough water, like any of the other things that are a part of it. It doesn't always mean like limiting yourself. Like the same thing of like, in your business, maybe you're like, well, I was going to buy myself this for the holidays, or I was going to invest this back into my business, but because I didn't hit that goal or that milestone for this quarter, I didn't earn it. Well, how can you have both? Like, how can you have the success to be able to say, you know what, we actually can't get that new text messaging, community for this year, but what I can do is I'm going to get a new template for my website for, less amount of money, whatever the things are that you're choosing to invest in. And really at the end of the day, like, you have to set what that goal is, because it's just this little funny meme of her saying like, I'm just saying, because you can't celebrate something that you don't measure, right? You can, but it doesn't feel the same, right? It's one of those feelings. I don't know if you've ever hit a goal and you're like, oh, I didn't even realize I hit that goal. Like someone else points it out to you and you're like, oh yeah, I did do that. If you set the goal, then you can celebrate the goal. And then you're really conscious of what you have going on and what you're celebrating. So that is really the first step, knowing and defining what you need, being clear on what success looks like for you. And this is a process, like everything. You want to come back and you try something on for size. You may get through one holiday and be like, I wasn't as clear with what I wanted or needed. Something that is super common in my community is that people want other people to take pictures. It is such a simple task and such a simple request to make, but it is the most commonly not spoken one. And being able to communicate and say, I would really like for you to take 5 pictures of our family today while I am not paying attention, so that they are the behind the scenes. I would really appreciate that. And I want 1 picture of us all smiling as a family. Like, that one sentence would save so many family dynamics in the holidays if it was just spoken out loud. And there's other things too, right? Like, it might be like, hey, I don't want to be in charge of buying the wrapping paper or the name tags or all the things that people come up with during the holidays that aren't spoken. Know what you need, define what you need, family dynamic, work dynamic, all of the things. And if you have a team, whether it's a team in your house or a team in your business, make sure you're communicating this to them as well. So that you're like, hey, I'm going to be out these days, or here's what I need to end this year being like, we crushed it. And then the second step is, same thing. So speaking out loud what you need. So I love this kind of visualization of just picturing yourself on New Year's Eve celebrating and thinking of the holidays that have just passed within this next 2 months and the memories that you've created, the milestones that you've hit, the goals that you've accomplished, and really just sitting in that disbelief of you did it. So this is something that I recommend you take a couple minutes to journal on at another point and sit through and just really get clear on what that means for you. And if you're new to journaling or really getting clear with that time for you, you can use specific situations and activities. So like think about, okay, the meal I want to eat on Thanksgiving is, or the food item I want to prep for Hanukkah is this, or I know Hanukkah has some really amazing dishes that are like really important for the whole celebration. Like if one of those was missing, like would that be, detrimental to your experience? Like make sure that it's really communicated what that looks like. And if you don't want to make it all, it's the bread, right? You can go buy the bread, you can go do the different things that would really make it worth the celebration for you. And then the second step is making sure that you ask others. So we have to communicate to others what we want and make sure that we ask them what they need, right? So even if it's your little kids, my oldest is only 3.5, but even for Halloween, I sat down, I said, hey, if we could go trick-or-treating, or we could go to the pumpkin patch again, or we could watch a Halloween movie, what sounds like the most fun? So you can give them choices if they're really little to help them understand, but they still get to say, this would be my favorite part. And if they're a little bit older, you can be like, hey, what would be like the most fun for you on Thanksgiving? What would be like the thing that would make it special for you? And as kids get older, it's super fun to listen to their perception of the traditions and the meals and the things that they care about, and making sure that you kind of keep track of that. We'll get back to that. But knowing what the tradition, the movie, the responsibility, photos, activity, time with others. So like, do they want to hang out with their friends? As kids get older, they like to celebrate these holidays with their friends too. So you have to set that boundary and that dynamic of time with others. If you have a business, maybe you have a company meeting. For the businesses in this day and age, it's a company like happy hour Zoom often with your team, different things like that you really communicate to everyone what that looks like. Any questions on that first, just communication of expectations and desires to yourself and others?
I do have a question. So you're talking about, and I totally agree with this, because you can't expect people to do things that you don't verbalize, right? And then you're like having a battle with your husband in your head that he has no idea about.
Yeah.
So like, how far in advance, and would you kind of like repeat this, or like, what are your tactics on certain things like that?
Yeah, so there's 2 ways to go about it, like offensive and defensive is what I think about it. So the defensive part is like the first time you get a text message from like another family member that's like talking about the holidays, or you see something and you're like, oh, you kind of have this radar go off that you're like, we have to talk about this. Like, are we going to be there? How are we going to navigate it? That would be like your first like alert, is the moment someone starts talking about family, like family dynamics, that they're like, hey, we're celebrating this way. It's like the aunts, the uncles, the cousins, or just like friends and family. If you celebrate with just friends and family, you want to make sure the moment that happens, you're sitting down like within like 24 hours, because you have to respond, right? You have to give them a response and you want to be on the same page. Now, of course, the better option would be that you guys already know before any of that's coming. And what I recommend as like a mom and a business owner is we have a lot of boxes we're checking that the other people in our circles don't. More than likely, most of the other people you're connecting with over the holidays don't fully understand what you have going on in your life, even as a mom, but also as a business owner. So you being able to come at that and say, here's what I'm comfortable with. So for me, I basically try to plan out every month, 1 month in advance, really roughly. I have like a spreadsheet that I look through that I'm basically like, what does this month look like? What are the things that we need to work through? Now, the holidays you can do really as early as you want, because you know that they're coming, you know what that dynamic's really going to be like. But we change really fast as humans. So in August, you may have been like, oh, it's fine, we'll just do all these things. Then you've had, curveball 1, 2, and 3 come at you since, and you're like, I mentally can't handle the same thing that I thought I could in August. So I would say now, like right now, it's the first time. And then the following year, really, check in with yourself periodically, at least once a month, but I would say definitely a month prior to whatever holiday or celebration that you have going on, and setting that expectation. It gives you the ability to be the one to set the boundary first, especially if you're working with teams or families, to go in and say, hey, I know you're going to want to see the kids this holiday season. Here's how we're going to celebrate. We'd love for you to engage with us in this part. Then you've already set the boundary, you've communicated that way. And like, let's say maybe there's an opportunity for co-parenting or anything else for you to switch it up. That's probably not going to work if it's like the weekend of, right? But maybe if you guys can work it out like a month before or prior, you can be like, hey, I was wondering, could we make this work this year? Then the more that you're in advance of that, the better it'll be. Did I answer your question? Yeah. Okay. So then the second part is really coming together. What is your family agreement or compromise? So up to this point, you basically have a list, and there's in that Google Doc a list of all the different family members, what their success looks like. And you then can look at that and say, okay, so-and-so wants this meal. This person wants to see their friends. This person wants to navigate in this way. How can we come together and celebrate in one cohesive format as an agreement or a compromise? So that's really specific to what those answers come out as is success. But let's say that your success for yourself looks like everybody sitting down for dinner one evening during that holiday week as just your family, like your household, no extended family, no friends, no any of those things. Now, somebody else may say, well, I want to celebrate with this family branch, and I want to celebrate with this family branch and these friend branches. So the compromise might be like, okay, well, the holidays can typically span like 2 to 3 days. Maybe in the morning you get to go hang out with your friends and do that, but in that evening we're going to have dinner as a family. And then the following day we'll go to that one other branch, and the following day we'll go to that one other branch. And our limit with that family is 4 hours, and then we come home, right? So you're setting really clear expectations that everyone understands. Here's how we can bring all of those things together. And if you can't, like if two things typically just like overlap, so nice to meet you, Sweta. Have a great day. And if two things just overlap and you can't make it work, then it's really having that compromise to say, okay, if it can't work for both of us this time, who gets it next time and how can we make that work? And then the third step, once you have that coming together and you have your success, is actually after the holiday and after the event. So if you celebrated Halloween, this is a really great time to just get that feedback right now to say, hey, what was your favorite part of how we celebrated Halloween? What was like your biggest fun moment? And I always recommend keeping this positive. There is learnings in the, I didn't like this part, but I wouldn't ask for those. If they feel really strongly about them, they'll probably come up. And I would keep that at a parent level, especially if your kids are in kind of the communication age of like tween to teen. Just keep that at a parent level and keep those as learnings. But really just, what was your favorite part? Because what you'll notice throughout this, I do this even with my parents, I call that managing up, but I'll say like, hey, what was your favorite part of celebrating with the kids? And sometimes what I've noticed is people will think they want to celebrate one way, and in turn, their favorite part was something totally different. So when you're just getting started, that list of the success measures that other people tell you is all you have to go off of. But next year, you can look back at this list and you can be like, you know what? Last year, they said their favorite part was actually when we went and saw Christmas lights, and no one said they wanted to do that this year. But everyone loved that last year. So I'm going to make sure we put that in here this year, because that way we're going to know that we hit those same feelings and emotions. And of course, people, grow and transition and they have different likes and desires, but it's really good to find that theme. Small community spaghetti dinner post trick or treat. I love that. And so Tabitha, that's a great theme of like, what about that was so great for you? Was it those people? Was it the like having it if it was outside or indoors or any of those things? So you can figure out, how do you bring that into the next holiday? Can you guys do like a community like happy hour or cookie baking or like any of those other things where it still hits you in all the same feels? Did you have anything you wanted to add?
I think it's just like, we weren't super into, like, I'm not super crazy about, the candy and commercials and sometimes the holidays, but it was just nice to just be in community and feel connection. And two, like all the kids just playing together on the floor and running around the house, giggling and laughing. Like, and I'm so happy. And for Jacob, that seemed to resonate as well, because I was like, do you want to trick or treat more? And he's like, no, I just want to go play with Jubilee. And I was like, oh, okay, great. So he wanted that as well. So it was good.
Yeah. And that's it. I think with all of these holidays, like you said, there is this commercialism, and I'm not here to tell anyone if that's your favorite part that it shouldn't be, but typically as humans, it actually isn't our favorite part. Like, I think Sharice may be on the call still, and she talks about, love languages with her community. And someone's love language may be gift giving or receiving, and that's totally true. But that gift doesn't always have to be what we think it is. So you can really go through and figure out, okay, is the gift maybe something that hits a little bit differently, and how can we guide that so that everyone can compromise and kind of come together? And if they truly want those gifts or that candy or whatever else, how do we also make the playtime a part of it and hitting those themes? I just love that so much, Tabitha. Any questions on those three real topics of really knowing your own success and desire, then getting feedback from others, compromising as a whole as a family, and then follow up and prepare for next year and collect that data?
No question, but I just love all of this. So just wanted to give that feedback.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy it's helpful. So the next thing is taking all of that information and actually ending the year with success, because there's this balance of identifying what we want, being aware, having that information, but then what do we do with it? Other than knowing how to set our holidays up, how do we then make sure, okay, what does that actually mean on paper? And how do we hit the ground running for this next, month and a half, if you want to give yourself some holidays between there, but 2 months to truly end strong. So this is setting priorities, action items, and then a schedule for these next 2 months. So you want to identify 3 priorities for your family or business between now and the end of the year. And that's a total of 6, which is a lot, but you want to start with just those 3 per item. And if you have that Google Doc, this is outlined for you. And then right below that, you want to have corresponding action items for each of those priorities. And this is something that I do recommend stepping away and looking at. For those that are not looking at the Google Doc directly right now, it shows a table where you can outline the 3 priorities for family member or team member, and then feedback or the priority itself, and then the action item for each person, and then putting that into a calendar. So there are 8 weeks between now and the end of the year, starting on the 7th. I'm giving you 5 days to do all of this homework and get clear on it. So starting on the 7th, you can outline an action item per week, just 1 action item. And so you have 8 weeks and 6 action items. Does that make sense? So you have a little bit of a buffer in there, and this allows you to really get clear on scheduling what that time looks like for you to be able to hit success in each of those things. If you're not looking at the tables, that might be a little confusing. So I want to open this up for any questions. Let me know if you have questions on that. Okay, we will go ahead and move forward then. So recapping again is just communicating your expectations and desires, measuring success as a family, combine and compromise, follow up, collect data, and prepare for next time, and using your priorities, your goals, and your action steps. So to kind of wrap us up here and then open up for general Q&A, I just want to take a couple minutes for you to journal on all of the things that we just talked about, how this will benefit your family, what you already feel like you need more of, or where you could get support. There are some amazing women on this call today that could help you probably personally, professionally, and everywhere else. But speaking that out loud is a lot of what we talked about, being able to share and communicate what you need. And also, if you don't do it on this call, you can connect with these women in the like-minded community. You can go into the platform and put this out there for the next couple of weeks as you need support. So where do you see those blocks and bumps, and what are you excited about? So similar to what we journaled on in the beginning, but now that you have this context, I want you to just think about it out of a different lens. So we're just going to take a couple moments to do that. All right. If anyone has anything that came up for them, I'd love for you to share anything that is super helpful, or you're like, gosh, I just really still see this being a hurdle, or anything totally unrelated but is coming up for you, because that happens to me all the time when I journal. And I think that's totally fair. We have a lot going on as moms and business owners. Go ahead, Tabitha.
I think for us, just focusing more on the business goals for me, and because of the financial sort of pieces of it, and focusing more on connection. And I think just asking, I'm gonna have to ask for help from family as far as gifts and things like that, and from grandparents, and just making sure that those gifts are intentional. Maybe sometimes they can be just random, not so exciting gifts for Jacob. So yeah.
Yeah. And everyone has different opinion on this, but some things that work well for our family and some people I know is you can set an Amazon wish list that includes like things that you would really like. One of the things that I did last year is our grandparents really do like to pick the gifts, but I said, here's like the concept of the type of things that we could use and things that we don't need in the house. And, if I get another Hot Wheel car, I think that we could open a museum, but there's like different things that you can give context around. And I also asked that they got whatever they got that they were willing to play with them with on Christmas. And that was really huge for us. And I said, whatever you get, I want you to help put together and have the activity of playing with it. And I also asked for a limit because then you have to store it all. They don't really get a lot. So that works well for us. It's totally personal preference, but they are things that have worked well for us.
I'm going to chime in too, because we had this thing, like my husband has 2 brothers and there's like 7 grandkids, and they come from a family of like my mother-in-law's love language is gifting. So we just basically like got all the siblings together and we're like, hey, like, are you guys good with not doing gifts this year? Like the kids are really small. It's not like they like need to open 1,000 gifts, and we were traveling. And so we basically just said like, hey, we're not doing gifts this year. And it was like so much easier, less stress, less traveling with gifts, having to ship things back. Like my mother-in-law will ship everything back for us. So that was something that we decided to kind of implement last year, that has worked really well for everybody. And it just like takes so much pressure off. So that's also a different tactic that worked for us.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. And the other activities that typically happen during the holidays also cost money, right? So whether it's buying like cookie decorating supplies or different like, crafts or arts or things, activities to do as a family, if someone wants to gift something, maybe that's what they can gift, because those things are still gifts to receive, but you don't have to ship them back or have any of those other things that you're talking about. I love that. Does anyone else want to share any thoughts around the holidays or takeaways? While I give you guys a moment to think about it, these are the ways that you can connect with me. You can join my daily-ish, as I call it, text list, because family comes first to me. So on the days that I can't make it, I don't make it. But otherwise, I try to text you daily with some feedback and perspective. You can follow me on Instagram at Mama Has Goals, and this is Kelsey Smith. And like I said, I launched my podcast today. And if you're not familiar with how podcasts work, it is super helpful if you are aligned with the things that I shared today, if you found it helpful, if you like the idea and the concept and the mission of Mama Has Goals and moms having an identity and their own goals alongside their family, it would be huge if you would rate and listen and review the Mama Has Goals podcast. And if you feel extra called to share it to your own stories, that would be amazing. And if you aren't into podcasts, but you want to share a takeaway from today to your stories, that's always helpful too. The Mama Has Goals community is really about the community. So as many people as we can help in that aspect is amazing. And then share the like-minded community, of course, as well, because that's entrepreneur specific. And entrepreneur, creator, female founder, and dreamer. And anyone that fits that criteria obviously involves doing amazing things here. And I'm so excited to be a part of it. But now I think we have a little bit of extra time involved, right? So we can open it up for anyone that has general Q&A, even if it's unrelated to today's topics. If there's anything that we can kind of like mastermind as a group together, I can support you with.
Yeah, I want you to also share about your app.
Yeah.
So put that in the chat, put the link to in the chat and talk about your app, because I think that'd be really beneficial. I don't know if Tabitha's a part of it, but I definitely think she should be. So will you share that, Kelsey?
Yeah, I will. So what I'll put in the chat is the link for anyone that has a business. You can apply to be a resource within the app. We are doing the full relaunch of the app probably next week, and we'll see all of that on social media. But the app is a social community and resource platform for current and aspiring moms. So we have sub-communities and groups based off of dynamic in the home. So Tabitha, there's a single moms group. There's also adoptive and foster parents, age of children, and then things just like your interest. So if you like to travel or do different things like that, you can connect with like-minded mamas. And then there's what we call the filing cabinet, which is where we feature other female entrepreneurs as resources, anything from snacks to meal prep, how to write a resume, connecting on your love languages. Sharice is in there, and really everything in between. So I'll put the link in here where you can watch a little video on that, and you can also apply to be put in the app. And really there's not a hard application process. Just if you're aligned in supporting women, then we'd love to have you.
Awesome. Thank you. And they do a co-working session too, on Tuesdays at 9:30 in the morning. So super beneficial just, I think in general, co-working.
Quick
so Tabitha,
question.
yeah.
The community, is it a paid community membership, or I think I maybe missed that?
Yeah, so there is a free portion of the app. So some of the resources that have maybe just like a PDF download or a small guide, they're in the free portion of the app. And then the paid portion is $20 a month with higher level resources, mini courses, and they get to attend our other calls. The co-working call is open to the public. And then the resources that we bring in each month, which will kick off again, probably at the beginning of the year, will be the higher level resources for the paid members.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelsey. Going back to kind of what you said, so like to the presentation that you were doing, my husband's family is coming to visit. We're doing an early Thanksgiving. So I think my biggest takeaway from what you said was really setting those expectations early. And by early now, it's like 9 days away. So here we are. But we're doing like an early Thanksgiving with my family and his family, and just everything from shopping to get some stuff to planning, like, is it going to be at my parents' house? Is it going to be here? Like all the logistics, is probably best to maybe talk about tonight and tomorrow, instead of like a day before they come, which is probably what we would have done, and just kind of like been on the fly. So I think having that like top of mind, that's what I'm going to implement today.
Yeah. And it's okay. Like, I also want to always recommend that you don't have to plan it all. So it's like the kind of joke of like how the laundry's folded or how the dishwasher is loaded type of thing. If you care, then you should plan it and you should communicate. But if you don't care, then give someone else the opportunity to step in so you don't have everything on your shoulders. So let's say you're like, I don't care whose house it is at. Like, then invite others to like plan and be like, hey, I actually don't care whose house it's at. All I care is that we have these 2 meal items and it's before this time because the kids need to go to bed. Someone else help take over. But if you're like, no, actually, I'd like it to follow this structure and you want to be in control, then you have to communicate that too, right?
Yeah, 100%. So I think it's going to be at my mom's house. The only my husband's the chef. So like all that's going to be with him and his mom. And then all I care about is the timing really because of bedtime. So yeah, that's basically how I'm going to handle it. Like he can handle all the shopping, the cooking, the planning with his mom and my mom. And then there's no mess at my house. So it's a win-win.
Totally. Such a win.
Cool. Yeah. Does anybody else have any takeaways or questions or want some feedback from Kelsey? This was so awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Yeah.
No, I'm just excited to listen to the podcast. I just jumped on there and saved it. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
And the app, I'm excited to check it out today. Congratulations, by the way. That's a huge accomplishment.
Thank you. Yeah. When I was saying earlier in the call that we have to take a moment and be like, oh, I did that. That was for me. Yeah. We're making sure that I take a moment. But thank you guys so much. Appreciate all of your support. So some of the other things that I am typically able to help the most with is identifying goals, family vision, business vision, setting up yourself for success around budgetary or offerings. I can definitely give some context on like launch feedback and any way that I can just help you support like yourself mentally as a mom and a business owner. So whether it's in the DMs later or it's right now, since you have me for a little bit, I'd be happy to support you any way I can.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kelsey. She is an open book, so reach out. I know Haley and Sharice know Kelsey very well. So this was awesome to have you guys here. And I'm going to just